but I've been in clay most of my life. I had a really great high school teacher who really pushed me into it. He knew I was going bad places. And he gave me a key to the studio. So that's how I got into it. And then I worked at a summer camp, being in charge of the clay studio and all the arts and crafts. So we had 26 classes a day, and it was me as a 20-year-old teaching 16-year-olds how to teach 8-year-olds. So that was in the fire. And then part of a Miami guild for a while, and then lucky enough to find Clayways when I first moved here. And then I just didn't leave. And so now I get to teach, which is really exciting. Yeah. Do I just go? Is that it?
Yes.
We're going. Okay. So
you can talk about, your pieces first or whatever you want to do.
So I teach the 10 a.m. class, and this is the first class ever where they've given me a margarita before it. So
Just when she's talking.
bear with me.
Just when she's talking. Yes, thank you.
All right. So I am not a production potter, and I'm not. I do sell a few things at the Austin Pottery, but I am not a seller. I am obsessed with the problem solving of clay. So I love the challenges and the nitpicking. And I kind of have a short attention span, so I work on a couple things and then I move on. So I think I love teaching because there's so many problems. Every student has a new problem, and I love trying to figure that out. However, I'm trying to be more disciplined and have more of a series, and this is one that is pretty simple, but you can really play with it. So, lots. Oh, that's for you.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is show two kinds using a template. This is one kind where using slip and lace, and then a second kind where it's just more altered. So I have a couple altered pieces back here. And I rolled out clay. I'm using B-Mix right now, and it is cone 10. And I thought I had it all out, but I was about a half inch too short on one space. So what I'm going to do is show the first technique that you guys are also experienced. I hope you get at least one thing out of it. You don't have to love the whole project, but if you get one, that's interesting, then it'll be successful. So I have this lace that I found at a thrift shop, and now we can move those. And I'm gonna press this into the clay. And work out, I like really expensive things. So this is a fancy template made out of a dog food bag. I'm very thrifty. So I'm just gonna make sure this kind of fits on here. All right. So what I'm gonna do is press this in so that the slip will not go underneath it. And it's gonna squeeze tight enough that you can kind of feel the skin. A little Kuro's right now, like right there.
Like Kuro's tummy.
So my class on Tuesday mornings, there's a lot of what I call independent study. So having this many people actually pay attention is very new. So I've got some B-Mix slips with just mason stains in them. And what I'm gonna do is put those on top of this.
And is that plastic or cloth?
This is cloth.
Okay.
Yeah, cloth piece right here. Dried out a little in my car.
What is that again?
So this is just slip with mason stain in it. So just clay, watered down with mason stain. With B-Mix, yeah.
Do you know what colors of mason stain those are?
That's probably cobalt.
I maybe took them from Austin Pottery.
Oh.
And
It's AP green then.
it's AP. Yeah, it's AP. Is that just, you guys know what the color? Bob, do you know the color? Terry?
You know, we got a huge quantity of different kinds, so. It's blue. Some of it's labeled, some of it's not.
Well, this is here for inspiration, not to mimic, right? So whatever color you choose, I'm sure will be fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna just add here. I am a sloppy worker, which is why I like this technique, because I don't have to be too nitpicky with the colors. I'm gonna take a second color. Ooh, this is so thick. I'm just gonna use my fingers to kind of put it on there. So I can put this in a variety of spots. This is hard to see, huh?
I was gonna say, do you need to stand and
Come
see
on,
what you see?
showing around.
Yeah.
Is there a certain strength to your mason stain, or are you just doing it by sight?
It is by sight, because it's just pure color choice, right? We fire to, where I fire is cone 10 reduction, so a lot of the color is lost. So it's nice to have really thick colors. As far as this goes, I can place this anywhere, and it doesn't really matter. I had good intention of having a white slip to kind of
So
blend
is this
it.
after firing, kind of? The color?
Yeah, that
And is
does.
those mason
yeah.
stains?
Yes,
Yes.
these are the same ones. This one does have a tinted blue celadon on it,
Oh,
though.
it's beautiful though.
So this is like finger painting here. All right. So I'm doing this one first because you could imagine this is going to be hard to work with for a little bit. So I'm going to put this up here, let it kind of dry off. We have a heat gun. It's needed. All right. And like fascinating. Came here to watch finger painting. All right, so what I'm gonna do is not even worry about that it's not dry right now, but I can peel this, and then this is like the big reveal. Wouldn't that be exciting if you could see it? Wow, that's so great.
Wait, we have a question.
How thick did you go on with the slip?
I went fairly thick. So for this, I don't mind if the texture comes up at all. So if you want it smooth, you can have it fairly thin. But this one happens to be thick. I am going to raise this so that you can see it is a fairly wet slab.
That got wedged to the table. Good.
There we go.
Yes.
We are gonna, well, it's here. Add a little fabric. I'm gonna slide this under so that it'll be easier to show. All right. So this will be upside down for you. Oh! You can see it. All right. So you can see that now?
Yeah.
And then I tell people I hand carved it. Each dot, hand carved. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is slide this over and get it out of my way because I can't work with it right now because I'll need to wrap my hands around and it will obviously get messed up. So that's why I happen to have two projects because this is the magic of Instagram. This is the part where you go. Boop, boop, boop. You put out a little fabric here. Fabric does a couple things. Keeps it from sticking to the table. Hindsight. But it also makes it maneuverable as I work. So I'm gonna take the second slab, and I rolled these out. I rolled these out previously. Having wet clay is great though. I can pull this straight from the bag and do it. I compressed each side and got rid of a lot of the marks. Well, some of the marks. It was a long drive down here. So I'm gonna skip the compression because that's less interesting. But what I did here is it's just a very simple template. And you're gonna see that it's marked 17 inches and 27 inches. And that is from the center circle. So I know there's better ways, but I took a banding wheel and I duct taped a giant yardstick to it, right? And then I stuck a pen on the end of the yardstick. I have it right here, right? And if this is the middle of the circle, the circle that I make,
That's brilliant.
I know there's better ways. So in class, anybody who's ever had me has had hear the horrible joke, and you have to hear it again, Candy. I'm sorry. How many powders does it take to change a light bulb? It's 101. 1 to change the bulb, and 100 to say, that's not how I would have done it. So there are so many ways to do this, but this is 17 inches away from that middle. And the reason that's important is if I ever want to replicate this, or if I ever want to, my dog food bag dies, or say I want, instead of this size, I want it to be this size. This cut angle is dependent on knowing where that middle circle is. If you've ever sliced a cylinder around a sheet of paper, so a sheet of paper, perfect, meets. But if you take a cone, a little bit, if the top is a little bit smaller and bottom's a little bit larger, it's hard to get those edges to meet perfectly. You can do the layover method and slice it, but if you want a little bit more precision, you can go with these lines. Is this familiar at all?
I love it.
Okay, this is okay, all right. So this way I can keep that. All right, so I'm gonna come here. I swear I measured these before I got here. I think they shrunk in my car. I went from winter to summer. All right, so I'm gonna fudge that end a little bit. But, okay, so I'm not too freaked because I can bluff another line over here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is get my needle tool. About 60% of this is gonna be me looking for tools. And for this one, this is gonna be the top, this is gonna be the bottom. What I'm gonna do is drag my finger around. You know what, for this one, I'm gonna make this to this height so that I don't have to worry about that. There to there, all right. So the bottom cut doesn't have to be crazy fancy. It's just a straight up and down. The top, for this one, I'm gonna trace this line. Bring it all on up. All right, that's there. And now for the outer edges, I'm gonna have a very specific cut. So I want them to overlay on each other. So I'm going to take a straight edge, and on this first one, oh, that's a little bit shorter. All right, so what I'm gonna do is line it up on there and go at a 45-degree angle. I'm gonna switch to a different tool just to show off how many tools I have. All right, so I'm gonna cut in this direction, and I'm gonna lean on this because I don't have a steady hand. And I'm gonna take the same stir to the other side, except for I'm gonna pull it back a little, and I'm still gonna lean on this and do that exact same angle. I'm gonna go this way. All right, I'm gonna save this for a little bit later. Pull this off. Pull this. And I didn't cut that top end because it was a little bit shorter, so I gotta cut that. So this top one will be just straight up and down. I use my pinky as balance. And I can just wipe that away.
If your template from the dog food bag doesn't cut when you trace it with a needle tool?
Not yet. But the night is young. I don't know. It could. But again, that's why I marked 17 and 27, just in case I screw it up. I luckily have a short enough attention span that by the time I destroy this template, I'm moving on anyway. All right, so for this baby, I'm gonna add a little, well, we gonna do a little texture? Let's do a little texture. I'm gonna add a little bit of design here. Look away, Bob, it'll go back.
That was your bridal veil.
It is. Now, I see in hindsight, it's probably better. I could have added my texture before I cut it. But I get a little nervous in front of people. So I forgot. So what I have to do is make sure I don't press too much and distort the line I just cut. I'm just gonna add a little. So this one is going to be a very subtle texture. So much that even if you were in the front row, you could not see it. It seems like a great design choice for a group meeting. All right, so if this is my top and this is my bottom, I'm going to just soften this top side first. A little bit of moisture. Come on down. And then my absolute favorite tool. So you can buy them like this. Oh, you can buy them like this. It's just a serrated rib. And then I buy like 5 at a time, and then I slice them up. And then I say, where's my serrated rib? But for this, because this clay is so wet, I'm not even going to, I'm not gonna add moisture to it, because it'll just be sloppy. But I'm going to use this to score one edge. It always blows my mind that somebody can score with this. Just so intense patience. I can't do it. All right, so that is scored. I'm not gonna worry about the bottom because I'm adding something to it. I'm going to carefully flip this over. I also have a theme in my class, and it's on Tuesdays, and I say we live dangerously on Tuesdays. So if the clay dies, it dies. So I'm gonna fix my other side of the rim, and I'll have time to come back and fix that rim, but I might decide that that's good enough, and it's easier to do it now when it's laying down than when it's up in the air. Score that. Here. All right. Here's where the wheel comes in. It's such a big table, and yet I have no room. It's a very Potter's thing to do, right? Fill the entire table. All right, so I'm gonna have a little thing right here to work off of. I'm gonna put on another piece of fabric. That way I can manipulate it a whole lot easier. Here we go, guys. And remember, if I fail, you learn from it. So it's okay. All right. So if this is my top, here's my bottom. Ooh, living dangerously. I'm gonna bring that on up here. Okay, that was a hard part. All right, so once it's up, then it's okay. So I'm going to bring these edges here off of the edge of the table and this way. Hopefully you can see this now. Finally. All right, so if I mark this full line to the inside line, and we'll do a little this way. I'm just gonna touch those end lines. And we'll do a little this way. All right, so once those are touching, now I can lay them together. Slowly add that over.
Curious what you use for the materials, whereas you built.
I found napkins from a thrift shop.
Okay.
So, I know you're not gonna believe it, but they were selling these for like 25 cents.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a friend.
So you don't have to wet those, the edge?
This clay is so wet. It's essentially out of the bag. And there's going to be a lot of compression happening. So you could, but for this moisture and the amount of compression, I have found that I don't need to. I found, especially with working with the slip, I'm just more likely to get it wet. Like everything wet. All right, so I like to hide my seam and play the game, where's the seam? So I don't always have it in the same spot. So for this one, I think I'm gonna make it not naturally on the side. Let's go this way, a little bit off kilter, just for fun. All right, so obviously needs a little loving. Right there. Okay, so with the cut so severe, then there's a lot of overlap. So if I push in this direction and push in this direction, most of it seals pretty well. So this hand is coming to my left, and this is going to my right. Ooh, like a step stool.
I know, I was thinking. Just 6 inches.
On down. Okay, so if I can't reach, I love this too. Again, getting back to Austin pottery. All right, so one reason I love this is because it can hold the place of my hand. Another tool, you'll even see the Goodwill mark on it, cookware, $2.49 on sale, 10% off. World's cheapest potter. It's an expensive hobby that we have. You gotta find good deals when you can. All right, so I'm gonna roll with this seam, not straight up and down. If I go straight up and down, the clay is just going to, it's not gonna marry in the same way. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, so I've got the red rib right here. I'm gonna begin to pet that across. I know that's unattached right now, I'll get to that, but I'm gonna deal with the stuff that I can reach. So we're gonna live dangerously. I'm gonna pull the inside. Yeah, I wouldn't do this at home on my real pieces, right? But there we go. I'm gonna show you. So you can see that that seam is obviously not added. So I'm gonna do a very similar thing and pet that way. I'm gonna use the back of my finger All right, that's pretty much as I can reach at this height. What I will do, however, is flip it over. All right, deep breath, everyone. Here it goes. Flip. All right, okay. So you'll notice I haven't put the bottom on. That's so I can keep manipulating it. Once that bottom's on, it'll have a lot more strength. I've made these at cone 5 and cone 6, and you can get away with murder manipulating them. So it's even easier. Come on.
Why do you fire it on the tin?
Because that's the facility that I have access to.
Got it.
Yeah. I do love it. I feel like I love the reduction colors. I love the strength of pieces. They do warp a lot more, but happen to love the studio I work at. And not just because they're looking at me right now. I actually do love it.
We just did it to challenge you so you have no problems.
So many problems. All right. I could nitpick that forever. Go on, Ashley. Keep working on that one scene. All right. So, okay. So at this point, I could choose to make this the top and that the bottom, very traditional size. But it's a simple concept anyway, so I'm a rebel. I flip it over. Okay, so now I have to figure out my bottom. I am going to take this other handy slab, move this baby, cut a little hunk. Again, these have all been compressed. I found that the more you compress, especially if you are a wheel thrower, you think of compression already, you know you compress the bottom. But in hand building, and when you throw the walls, throwing the walls is compression. So you stop thinking of it once that S-crack zone is gone. But in hand building, we are perpetually having to manually compress things because it's just hanging out here every time we move it, and we want them locked in. So if I were in my home studio, oh wow, that sounds like a dream, like a home studio. I mean, in the studio, working on my own. Before I move stuff, there would be another compression round right there. Right. Okay, so I want this on top of this. Do it. All right. So I'm going to think of this right here, right?
Do you roll your slabs by hand or do you use a...
I'm mostly rolling by hand. I think it's faster for me. I'm a high. I've been up since 6 working. So this is me totally exhausted right now. Okay. But I find it's just so much faster. If you get it down, and I do thrown slabs.
Mhm.
So if you throw it, you're done before you've cranked, okay, quarter inch.
Mhm.
These, I'm coming up for the A team here, so I did use the roller. I did. Okay, so before I place this on here, I forgot the most important part. So what I want to do here is mark it with water. And the reason I'm marking it with water, I'm not scoring it. There will be. I'm not that dangerous. But it gives me a few seconds to figure out where I want it. And it won't lock in yet. All right. And then, more importantly, I'm going to lift it up. And you can see where my piece was. So now I can just slip and score right there. See, I told you I had like 20 of them because I lose them. They're all under here. And when I score, I just dip it and run it. Dip and run. And I know where it is here.
And that's water, not vinegar?
It is just water, yeah. Every little attachment's got a little wiggle. So if you get that wiggle in there, it'll lock it better than anything, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna add water to this again, but the main job of the water here is so I can hydroplane it into place, just in case I miss. I mean, for like when I miss. All right, so there it is. And then I can choose my size and look back. All right, so it won't be on until I give it that wiggle. So from right here, wiggle. And I know this isn't totally reaching yet. I'll come back to that. Wiggle, wiggle. So I'm pushing down and I'm shaking my hands. And down. All right, so now I've got this fabric and that's gonna be my friend. So I can use that fabric to do the same shake and wiggle. Same shake and wiggle. All right. Okay. So now I'm gonna switch to cutting this off. And I'm gonna use this needle tool because it was the first thing I grabbed. You can use anything. All right, so I want to attach close, but not too close. And that's just for this specific piece because I like the foot to come out and be obvious. So I'm gonna go 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters on the outside. I'm gonna drag my finger. All the way around. Can you guys see enough? Come on off. All right, this is where the fabric is really gonna play a huge role. I'm gonna clean this up and make it pretty-ish. And then I can decide if I want to keep any or cut any off. But I'm going to clean most of it because once it's on there, it's a whole lot harder to clean. All right, I'm going to do my compression. And in attachments, that compression is going to look like just a tool in there. So I'm gonna go this direction so y'all can see. I'm just gonna add that, coating that line. Oh, I went a little higher. Yes, there is an esthetician who gave me this. These are little cuticle pushers. They're fantastic. All right, so now I'm gonna go in the inside. And I'm gonna use my fabric to seal that line too. So I'm gonna pull up and push in that same corner. Pull. So this fabric gives me control of the slab underneath without having to move it. I gotta fix this little slop right here before I go too much further. Girls got standards. And as I push, there's a little wiggle. Push, little wiggle. Totally tucked this under. So from here, I can put my thumb underneath. It's hard to see from that direction. But I can have a finger under there to add to that compression, but then also bring it upward.
Is the fabric you're using thin enough where you can almost feel moisture?
That's a good question. No, I can't feel that. Yeah. It is almost all polyester. And I love the polyester because it doesn't wrinkle. Cotton, it'll kind of eat away after a while and it'll show a lot of the wrinkles. But no, I can't feel the moisture. Never thought about it. All right, so I'm gonna go back in with, at this point it's really hard to hit those edges. So I'm gonna go in with my finger. Just hope for the best, really. Just feeling that around there. All right. And then one final rock. Just to make sure. All right, so I'm pretty sure y'all don't want to watch me nitpick this too much, so I'm gonna move on. But I would clean that up a lot.
How long does it take to make one?
Depends on my attention span for the day. I can get a couple of these in 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so this is a good time to fix my rim. So just holding it with a little bit of a edge, can compress that down and pull it around.
So on some of the other vases, you've got like a thicker rim on those.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that?
So that's coming. I'll use this roller, and then part of it's coming right now. We're gonna flip that baby over again. Living dangerously. All right, so I'm gonna tap that bottom to give it a little concave, and then come around with this rolling tool. So what this will do is not just seal it back on, but if I go at an angle, it will get that ridge. And it's essentially what I would do with the rim. So just a little bit of an angle, and down.
So what happened to the texture that you put on there?
It's still there. I only put it on this lower part. And in hindsight, yeah, choosing a texture that's already hard to see is probably a terrible idea. But you come really close, you'll see that line right there. I like this one because you put a couple colors on there, certain colors, and it looks a little like snake skin sometimes. If amber's on it, it looks like snake skin. If white is on it, then it's kind of lingerie-ish looking, which is pretty. Right, it's just, well, yeah, it's over there. It's real.
Oh, I see.
It's a very light
May I pass it
texture. So Robin alluded to some of my work. I traditionally make very dark, aggressive work. And I love texture and dark colors. And this is my year of simple and pretty. Pretty. All right. So I'm gonna flip that baby over.
These forms are amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're they're very elementary, right? It's a cone is something you learn fairly early on, but you can really play with it. You know, where you are on that circle, the closer you are to the middle of the circle, the sharper it is. The farther out, the less sharp. All right. So now I'm gonna do the rim, and basically the same thing. So I'm gonna steal some of that clay and come on down. If I take that edge, that corner right here, and these are heavy pieces. They're not coffee mugs, right? Because if you got flowers, you need a little oomph. And then the way I build, if you have your slabs too thin, then they won't hold up. So there is a little weight to some of these. They're big boned.
My cat likes to push against the flowers, so I like it.
Yeah, these are cat safe.
Cats, yeah, yes.
These are not flying away at a picnic.
Have you tried this in any other clay, like porcelain or?
I haven't, no. Can't wait to see if anybody does. Yeah. All right. So what I'm essentially aiming for is that the top mirrors the bottom, so that any mess in the middle looks intentional. And all right. So at this point, what I can do is just shape a little. I would make sure my bottom is cleaned up and beautiful. I can go in now and, that's the wrong tool, and follow my line of texture. I could have done that on the flat. And then wherever my seam is, I'm gonna make that go this way. I'm gonna change my mind. So wherever my seam is, I'll tell you the part that I spend the most time is the seam. So out of those 2 hours, that's like 90 minutes. No, it's not, I exaggerate. But I do try to hide that as much. Worst comes to worst, you can always add a coil, but I find adding a coil will just add one more bump to it. So something like this, I might scratch it all up, get rid of it, hope for the best, and then clean that out again. But I lost some of the texture. I lost some of the texture when I created my seam. So I'm going to go back and fix it. And I don't like that, so I'm going to erase it. But I can take this. It's like Ginger Rogers right here. Okay. Here's my cool tool. I can brace on. Get that back. Get some of that texture that I lost. At this point, it would have been really great to like whip out a new texture so you could see what I'm doing, right? So that's how I can cover my seam. Oh, you can really see the seam here. But, so for this one, I'm gonna manipulate it a little bit more, just for interest. And I'm going to hold right here and fluff it out. So all I'm doing is pushing right here. I'm gonna get my finger wet.
Are you a full-time potter?
I am not. I am not. I do have the luxury of not having to sell my work. I mean, because people are knocking on the doors. No. I definitely respect people who live by it. Yeah.
You give your work away, is that what?
I have a family rule. I had to instigate a friend and family rule that I will give you 3 without you asking. And then after that, you have to ask me because, well, as my brother put it, like, buy a real gift. Like, enough of the pottery. So, I do give a lot. I actually don't make that much. So. But it is available at Austin Pottery.
Why are you doing this step here? Is that aesthetic?
Yeah, that's just to give it a little interest, yeah. It's so that it doesn't just look like a plain cylinder. And that's for you guys. Yeah.
Have you made a boot yet?
A boot? No. Have you? No? Oh, that would be fun. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little interest to it. I'm gonna pick the side I like. And this is a good time for me to say, oh, this side is on the wall, and this side's the front. So I'm gonna add a little flower. Because this year's theme is simple and pretty. Okay, so these are some cookie cutters. Tuesday morning, $2. Tuesday morning has the best clay tools. Shut your mouth. No. That was tragic. All right. Well, I'm doing my best to make that not happen.
Yes.
All right.
Well, we can go tomorrow, right?
$2 a day. No. All right. So you're gonna take a little plastic. I'm gonna slide this off so you can see. All right. So I'm gonna take a hunk of clay. I'm gonna flatten it a little bit just because it's kind of thick. I'm gonna put plastic on the other side. Press this in. And the main role of this is it bevels the edges, which I like, and then it doesn't stick. So then I got a pretty little flower, and I'm gonna take some sponge. The main job of this is just pressing it in. So if I wrap that around, pops up, pretty flower. And then another favorite tool, I'm like a 6-year-old, this is my favorite tool, is a broken pen. Should be in everybody's studio, just for a little fun. All right, so this baby's gonna go on here. Are you okay on time?
Oh, yes. 8 o'clock. Yeah. And you don't have to go as, till exactly 9, but anything you want to do with Q&A
This
after?
baby's so simple. I'm not gonna make you guys watch this until 9, I promise. All right, so I'm gonna press this on here. Every attachment gets the wiggle. And if I mess up my dot, I can come right there. Got a little thing. So I'm just gonna add 2 more, because you're like, I didn't get it the first time.
What do you sell your essays for?
This I would probably be in the 55 to 75 range. Because I am a terrible business person. I do love making it. Yeah. I really don't enjoy selling it.
Right.
I mean,
Just
making it?
I do love making it. So clay has always been the one thing where I didn't have to make money, right? I did live as a starving artist at one point, making jewelry. And I was living in Ireland and I was making jewelry, and if I did not sell anything, I did not have money. Like it was all or nothing. And I found, I was young and stupid, and I found that I was too proud to get like a real job because I wanted to live off of my art. Because real artists live off of their art. And I didn't have qualifications to teach. And so I found that I was just making what sold. And I got really good at making what sold. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. So, I mean, I know what sells. I know pretty and white sells. But I love making things that make you think, how did you make that?
That pit-fired piece you did.
Yes.
That was beautiful.
How do you make, like, how'd you do that? Or how'd you get those colors? How is that not standing? So, like, my latest sculpture of stuff that I love is extruded, and one piece is hanging on by a thread. And you're like, oh, that's fun. Is that gonna sell? It's never gonna sell. But I love that. So, anyway, going back to Ireland, I promised that I would never have to live off of my work. Because I sucked at it, and it made me miserable. So, I feel like teaching gets close enough, but not to that degree.
That's interesting.
So, that's why I don't live off of it. Okay, so now, oh, look, twins. So this is the difference between making in front of people and being on my own. All right, so at this point, it's all finishing, right? It is cleaning up finger marks. It is letting this section would need to be firm enough to soften. It's just nitpicking. It's all the nitpicking, which I used to think meant you weren't good at what you did if you have to spend all that time fixing it. And then I saw people that I really love and really respect just go to town on all those little details. I thought, you can see when somebody puts all the time in it. Like, you can see that I did not put all the time into this. Right? You're like, oh, that was really sweet that they let her. I must have really been desperate. But if you sit and do each little detail, it will show off. So, I do have this other one. It is the exact same premise. I am not going to go through all that motion. But now that this, I will cut this so that I can actually hold it for you. I did this in case I ran through this too quickly and there wasn't enough time. And then it was just crickets. But this can look spectacular. All right? And it's so simple. But then you tell everyone you carved it.
That's what you have on this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, so that's what this one is, right over here.
Yeah.
For ones that you do.
I'm not gonna pass it around, but I'll leave
this
this.
pattern with the slip, like before you would you let the slip completely dry before manipulating the shape and attaching it to the base?
What I would do, I would not let it naturally dry. I would take the heat gun to it.
Okay.
So taking the heat and just targeting this, and you can see it dry in front of your face. It just covers that, and that way the rest of the clay is still malleable.
Okay.
And that doesn't. And then you can go back and touch up little pieces you missed.
And like
Right.
when you're because when you're attaching the base, you're doing a lot of compressed. So
Yeah, it's risky.
Do you try to not mess up the print, or do you go back and do touch-ups?
I do a lot of touch-ups, and especially on this one. This is another one where this pattern's the whole thing, and I did not line it up. I don't know if you've ever seen Renee Laprosti's work where she will line it up. She's amazing. I'm lazy. So what I do is I do good enough, and then, there it is. And then where the seam is, I hand touch it up. So I will, maybe from the distance it's obvious where that seam is. The seam is right here. No, you're supposed to be nice. Where is it?
We're just being nice.
Just acknowledging what
I know, I'm just messing.
Whatever you are.
But like for this one, I went through and carved, so the pattern didn't just stop. Because once it just stops, you're like, oh, that's where it is. So I carved a little bit this way, and then added a little this way, and kind of try to make the pattern go back and forth to cover that section.
So you are a good
I'm a manipulator. Yeah.
That's a beautiful.
This fabric is super cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Marbling is neat.
I like to think of it as like a summer dress. With the little sides. I don't. But I'm definitely inspired by Jennifer Allen, who does a lot of darting. Like even this could use a little pull. Let's pull that in. So if I can mark here and mark here. I do have to do it this way, but I'm gonna dart this, and the darting angle needs to be parallel in the same way. So I'm gonna draw it.
This will be available so you can see it on video.
Oh, that's
So that, all right, so now I think I can do it this way now. Okay, my needle, or my X-Acto is that way.
towards center.
Yeah. Okay, so this next one, I'm gonna keep it that same direction. Did that go through? Oh, I hope so. There it is. And pull it. All right. So now those angles are the same. This one I will get moist because it's such a risky place. And then squeeze. Yeah, so, okay, thank you. You just invented a whole series. We got the dress series now. So when they're in the same direction, they just line up really perfectly, and you don't even have to add too much to it. So it gives it, oh. I don't see that part. See, it's super simple.
That's cool.
Yeah, that'll lock it in. Yeah, if you look up darting, boy, darting can be so fun in clay. And I'm gonna do this side too, so it looks good. And I'm gonna face it, so it'll go a little bit faster. All right, now I can face it this way. A little cinched in there. So I started as a wheel thrower, and I threw for, I don't know, at least 15 years or so. But I always loved manipulating it. And I used to think hand building was kind of a little cutesy stuff. You got your little boxes. You got your little dishes. And I didn't really appreciate it. But boy, you combine the wheel with some of these hand-built techniques. No woman's fully equal.
No man is.
Attitude is all, it's just
It's
attitude.
just right there. All right.
She's got attitude.
200, 200. 250. All right. All right, do you guys have questions?
Yeah.
I mean, what questions do you have?
So how did you glaze that one? Is that the slip on the top, the color, or?
Okay. Remember I told you I like to do things as complicated as possible?
Mhm, 'cause
Okay.
It feels like wax is involved in this. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I painted these. This is stroke and coat. And then I used latex.
Okay.
So I love using latex and in pottery. So I latexed all the way, every bit of this flower, latexed here, latexed around, and then,
So the blue is stroke and coat too, or is that the color slip? Oh no, it's glazed?
oh, this is a long one, ready?
Okay,
Okay, so then I dipped in white.
okay.
I latexed the bottom. No, I waxed the bottom. Dipped it in white. And then I peeled everything except for the flowers. And then I poured in white. Poured it out. Dipped to the very top. Cleaned anything that I messed up. And then latexed this rim. And then I latexed this about to here, wherever the lowest point was. I latexed all of that. And then inside about 2 inches.
Okay.
And then I dipped it that way.
Okay.
And the latex doesn't pull off the glaze under?
No, it's fantastic. Okay, so yeah, yes. All right, so paraffin will most of the time stick on glaze, but it's so hard to work with. You can't get anything clear. And Forbes wax peels right off. It fools you. You'll paint an intricate design, and then about a half hour later it'll all peel off. Or like sooner.
Yes.
Just enough to depress you, right? And then mess you up. You're like, wait, I thought it didn't work. Oh, it works. And it doesn't. But latex. And I've been using body paint latex.
Oh.
So the stuff you buy at Armadillo is white and thick and stinks really bad. And then it only lasts for, I don't know, a couple weeks and before it seals up. But there's a whole generation of people doing body paint wax.
Wow.
And you can buy it. It's really thin. And if you dip your brush in water first and then paint it on, and you always keep your brush wet, then it'll work. It'll go over glaze. And then you can clean your brush. The problem with latex though is cleanup. And even if you spill it everywhere, that's easy to clean. You just peel it up. But it will be, it's really bad for your sink and pipes. So say hypothetically, if you're in a community studio or your own house that you don't want to ruin, I take my paintbrush and I rub it in newspaper and get most of it off. And then I keep these little cups tinier than this, and I only use a tiny cup to clean it in, and then I pour that water in the garbage. So it never touches the sink. You have to treat it in the same way that you treat plaster. I just realized I have been facing this way like the whole night. I'm so sorry. But you treat it as if it's, you know, as dangerous as plaster is to your pipes. Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody else here knows this, but what is latex a type of glaze?
It's a plastic, essentially, like liquid plastic. You think of like just rubber gloves.
But then you fire it with that on there?
I'm so glad you asked. No, you do not fire it on there. But its magic is that you paint it on, it'll turn into, like, it'll feel like a burst balloon once it's peeled off. It goes over everything, and then you just peel it right back off. Oh.
Satisfying.
Oh, it's the greatest.
It doesn't take off the glaze.
It will not take off your glaze.
That's amazing.
There will be hints of it on there, especially underglaze. It'll have like a shadow of color, but it's remarkable.
So you're saying you put glaze on it, and then you fire it, and then you put the latex on it?
No,
I mean,
this is
I'm
all
sorry, I'm
this.
totally
Yeah,
missing
yeah.
what you're talking about.
Because I make it hard for no reason. It's all one process. So all of
It's like
these-
wax resist.
Yeah, you treat it like wax resist, but it has qualities that allow you to do other things. So wax resist, you get on here, and you make a mistake, it's on there,
Yeah.
and you don't get any redos. But vinyl, like, if I dip too far down below, I can just slice it off the part that I don't like. It's really fun. It's really fun. It's very hard to clean. Like, you have to be, you just have to be mature with your cleaning, right? Like,
So is the
there's
blue
give
a
and takes.
glaze? The blue is a
yeah,
glaze?
this is glaze.
And then you put the latex over it like a wax resist?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
what you're
So
saying?
if I put wax on this, then it's there forever. So I was able to wax the same part twice and have two different colors on there. Or not wax, latex it.
I knew it was tricky. I knew, I was like, wait a second.
What do you typically peel it off? Is it safe to discard?
Yeah, you just throw it out. Yeah, it looks like a balloon. Like a popped balloon. That's the one thing I didn't bring.
So if we Google body latex.
Yeah. And I'm taking all this from Renee LaFoster. So she's the source that I got that from.
You might want to have your safe search on.
Yes.
Yes.
Get all sorts of
And just for the record, every woman on the cover is naked, except for they've got latex.
Oh, okay.
Like, so there's the cowgirl. And there's a devil. So. I got it off Amazon. Yeah, body paint latex. I'm sure it'll come up. Body paint.
I heard body latex. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that can be taken to wheel. You can do like that latex is fun because you can do really tiny things. You can layer and layer and layer. Peel it off, layer more, peel it off. That would have been a way better demonstration. Yeah, you got a question?
Your handles look like coils. Is that right?
Yeah, they would have been handmade. Yeah, boy, making a match, that's the hardest thing, isn't it? So that would have been. So for the record, every time I make handles, for every 2, I probably make like 10. I mean, because, those don't match. So I think this is what I call the Instagram handle. Traditional handles are tapered on the top and are thick on the top and thin on the bottom. And Instagram is thick right now.
Yes.
And It's like every handle is thick. So it's my Instagram handle. So making it thick on one side and thick on the other side. Sure would be great if I remembered how to make that one. And then, oh yeah, it worked. So that is a wee mini version. Probably flattened at one point.
There we go. Art.
Drawing? Oh, drying. So I'm a little cavalier with some things, but drying is the one thing that I'm not. I have found that if something is wrapped for 48 hours, any attachment will survive. Almost any attachment. I mean, you know, even loosey-goosey attachments have a chance. So what I do, if there's any attachment at all, any seam, any handle, blah, 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 I will wrap plastic on the bottom and fully encase it for 48 hours. That little window allows the moistures to marry and go back and forth. And then after that, when I get back to the studio, I unwrap it. But that 48-hour period allows me to get away with a lot. So, and compression. So.
Can I ask a question that's not about this? I really love your mugs with the city of Austin and all the different layers and everything, and it says you 6 different layers of work, including vinyl stencils.
Yeah, because I make things
newspaper
complicated.
transfer, washes, waxes, and texture.
Yeah. So she's referring to a series that I was a little obsessed with for a couple years of water meters. I would take clay prints off of water meters and City of Austin survey markers and create pieces off of that. And then they moved from actual meters to meter and interpretations, and then I was like, City of Austin sells. So I made a few of those.
Yeah.
I made a vinyl transfer. I mix latex and vinyl up all the time. So vinyl transfer. So it's basically making your own stencil. So that was a photograph of a that was a survey marker, photograph of it, and then used just like a regular stencil on a slab. And then, no, those were thrown cups. So I would have put that on the side and added it. Did I answer? I don't know if I answered a question.
I think this is probably long. It says they take 10 hours a piece.
Oh, you're asking the process?
Yeah, I was just
Oh,
trying to
yeah, that was like a kitchen sink of like, pew, this technique, pew, that technique, this and this and this. It was really for my own enjoyment. Yeah, are you? Do you want to hear you don't want to hear that process.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Oh, it's a long one. It was basically, it just felt like every technique that I had been working on for the last year, I just threw at one specific set of cups. So they're very loud. They've got bricks on them. There's also a jelly plate with stencils on it. Jelly plates are these it's basically just a clear gel, and you can do screen printing on it and then transfer that to your cup. So if your piece is awkward, like for this corner, it might be really hard to screen print on there or do a stencil, but the jelly plate, you can do it on there and then stick it on.
Because it's flexible.
Because it's flexible, yeah. It just creates like your own stamp.
So you kind of do a silk screen on the jelly plate.
Yeah.
And wrap
Yeah.
it. Okay.
And that's with underglaze. And what I have not mastered, I'm going to point you to Terry, is the consistency for the jelly plate. I can't nail it. I don't know. You put too much screen
Medium.
in
Yes,
there and
yes.
it peels off. You put too little and it's liquidy. That's a test.
Yeah.
Viscous.
Can't wait to see what you do. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys very
Well,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
This is
Fantastic. This was very generous of you to allow me to come. Thank you
Well,
very
I
much.
want you to know, I put the thumb screws to Bob.
Ah.
And I said, it's been since Terry demoed, since we've had in Austin, and he keeps saying no. So he offered you up so fast.
Thank you. And I thought it was just so I would pay my dues in person.
Yes,
I
awesome.
still haven't paid. But thank you. I have 2 teenagers, so for the last 5 years, nobody's paid attention to me.
Oh, yeah.
This is amazing.